Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. TalkNorth.com is powered by Bite Squad. Go to bitesquad.com or download their app. Get food to your door in minutes. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery free. Talk North gets you your first delivery free.
You're listening to the Strom Sports Show.
Yes, you are. It's a good afternoon here. You're listening to the Strom Sports Show. I'm Steven Strom on the TalkNorth.com podcast network, produced by Brandon Morton. If you're looking to advertise with the show, contact Jim Souhan on our website. All right, so first of all, bear with me. I am a little under the weather. It's the weather change out here in New Jersey. It's 80 degrees 1 minute, and then it's 40 degrees the next. So breaking news here. I'm walking up to the studio, and this is a Wednesday I'm recording on, so this comes out on a Sunday. Jimmy Butler, and this has been the drama all summer. Where's he going to end up? Why is there so much drama linked with the Timberwolves and Jimmy Butler? But now it is official, as Shams is all over Twitter. He's a senior NBA insider on The Athletic, pardon me. He just tweeted, Jimmy Butler has requested a trade from the Minnesota Timberwolves. League source tells me, and John Krasinski, another guy that's been on my show, Butler has given Minnesota a list of 1 to 3 teams with whom he's open to signing an extension with. So, I don't know really what happened. We're going to figure out what happened behind the scenes, but this has been an ongoing problem, ongoing drama this summer. We've seen it on Jimmy Butler's Instagram. People have commented on his post, and he responds back. And it's very unfortunate because now you're stuck with the same team basically from 2 years ago. I don't care that you added Jeff Teague and Taj Gibson. They are not the reason why the Timberwolves jumped plus 14 wins this year. Jimmy Butler was a huge part of this team's success this year. He's the most valuable player on that team, and now you're losing that. You're losing your defensive anchor. You're losing a veteran that knows how to win, knows how to defend, and the Timberwolves have 2 stars that they're dependent on in the future that do not want to play defense. And you just lost a guy that was willing to teach them. And listen, I don't know all the story. Okay, so I don't want to jump ahead here, but from what we've really heard is that Jimmy Butler has issues with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Towns. I don't know the significance of it. I don't know what happened, but you are losing a huge part of why you were successful and you were back in the playoffs this year, and that's because of Jimmy Butler. When Jimmy Butler went down, the Timberwolves were a 3 seed. What happened after that? They finished as an 8 seed. I'll get into it a little more, but joining me next year is Seth Toups. He is the radio host out in Redwood Falls, Minnesota, 1490, 95.9 FM, and we'll preview the Bills game. Seth Toups joins me now. He is the host of The Scoop on KGLR. You can catch that on 1490 AM or 95.9 FM in Redwood Falls, Minnesota. Seth, thank you for giving me the time to break down this Viking season.
Hey, I'm always glad to do it, having had you on The Scoop quite a bit. It's always fun to be on the other side of the microphone here, and plenty to talk about in Minnesota sports after an eventful weekend and now a very eventful start to the week too.
Yeah, I want to avoid the Timberwolf talk. We talked about it just now. I'm very upset with what's happened. I'll talk about it after this little segment we have, but I'm trying to contain my emotions right now. So let's start on the positives. Okay, let's look at the glass half full. Okay, so the Vikings just signed the second most accurate kicker in the NFL in Dan Bailey, and also picked up a speedy wide receiver in Aldrick Robinson. Talk about these two and what they're going to be able to bring to the table right away.
Well, I'll start with Bailey, and obviously we saw the issues that Daniel Carlson had at Lambeau, missed the 3 kicks. Not only was it the misses, but it was also the fact that they were all very makeable kicks. I mean, 35-yarder to win the game. You should be able to knock that down. And you look at all of those issues. It was something that the Vikings felt like they could no longer afford to wait for a young player to be able to kind of figure it out. So they go get Dan Bailey, as you mentioned, the second most accurate kicker in NFL history. Now, his numbers dropped last year, but that was due to an injury which he hopefully has had enough time to heal from. But a guy with a big leg, a guy who has a history of being able to make clutch kicks, and a guy who I think you looked at what he was looking for in the offseason. He was looking for a good opportunity for him. He turned down, I think, 3 other opportunities.
Yep. And
he goes to the Vikings because they give him the best chance to win a Super Bowl. That is the ultimate goal, is a Super Bowl. And I think Bailey is going to benefit from kicking most of his games indoors. He'll be fine outside, too, because playing in the NFC East, he's kicked in plenty of outdoor games as well. So I think he just brings a veteran presence, a guy who knows what he needs to do in order to make kicks down the stretch. And then you look at Aldrick Robinson, a speedster who was brought in because he has a familiarity with Kirk Cousins, a guy who was a teammate of Kirk back in Washington. And this is, in my mind, squarely a move to try to heat in the seat a little bit on Laquan Treadwell. Now, they're not the same player by any means. Treadwell, a possession receiver. Robinson, as I mentioned, more of a speedster, a home run threat. But still, if Treadwell is going to drop passes, then they're going to have to get somebody else in there. And I think that is more so that they're telling Treadwell, look, if you're not going to catch the ball, we're going to bring somebody else in who can.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that here. And now the biggest thing that's going to be intriguing is to see his response.
Yeah, it's just so funny, the kicking position, because when you kick the ball well, no one talks about it. But boy, if you start missing big time kicks, like Daniel Carlson, did, he is the talk of town. And I think everyone kind of sensed it after he missed that 35-yard field goal. Zimmer lined it up right in the middle of the hash, and if you missed that, and a lot of his kicks weren't even close, you kind of knew that this kid's career with the Minnesota Vikings was coming to an end. Let's move forward here. A lot of controversy regarding the tie with the Vikings and the Packers, the Clay Matthew hit especially, but people forget that Eric Kendricks got called for the same thing. What did you see from the Kendricks personal foul and Clay Matthews personal foul? Dissect these two plays here, that had a huge effect on this game and what you saw.
It's fascinating because the biggest angle from this is that everybody wants to say, well, this is due to Aaron Rodgers. This is why this rule now exists. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had was that second roughing the passer, the one on Kirk Cousins, I don't know if that gets called if we have maybe Case Keenum as quarterback or another such quarterback under center. I don't know that one gets called, but the fact that we now have a quarterback with name recognition, I think that is going to sway those officials late in the game to maybe entice them to be a little more aggressive with that call. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to get that call 10 times out of 10. And that Kendricks one, I still don't really feel like that was a penalty, but at the same time, I don't feel like the Matthews one was either. But we're seeing this rule. It's a bang-bang reaction, and officials, I think, tend to lean more towards the roughing part of it than the non-roughing part of it. And so I think that's why we saw both of those called. But yeah, I kind of figured you would like that theory that because we have Cousins now as quarterback, that his name carries a little more weight than previous Vikings quarterbacks have, and as a result, he's going to get some of those same penalties that some of the top quarterbacks do too.
I love that angle you took. I didn't even think of that. That is true. I mean, the Vikings really haven't had a big name quarterback since Brett Favre, so that's a good point there. The big question also on the offense side is the wide receiver position, that third slot. You know you're getting from Diggs, you know what you're getting from Thielen, but Laquan Treadwell has been the biggest disappointment. Although he did catch his first touchdown pass, which everyone went bonkers about, he did drop 3 or 4, one of them being for an interception. have we seen the end of Laquan Treadwell? How much more, rope are they going to give this guy?
Well, I found it fascinating. I was listening to KFAN in the reaction to the game earlier this week. I had a chance to hear some of Kirk Cousins' comments after the game, and I thought it was a fascinating answer by him to suggest that, he's not looking to the number on the back of the jersey when he throws passes. He's looking to whoever is open, and obviously you'd like to see the receivers come down with the ball, but if there's, I'm sure, a notion that, well, you got to target your top guys every time. It's not necessarily. I found it interesting that he does have those blinders on as to, hey, this guy's open, I'm throwing his way regardless. Now, they will start to use him less and less, I'm sure, if he continues to have issues with catching the ball, as he has. But I don't know if they're going to cut him just yet. It's a little easier to do so with a kicker because of the other options that were out there. But Josh Gordon now with the Patriots, Dez Bryant, maybe the most high-profile name out there as of now. I think they are fine with just hanging on to him for now, but I think his playing time could start to be majorly reduced if he continues to not be able to haul in the catches.
Now, the biggest question with Mike Zimmer on Sunday, for me personally, was when you're in overtime, your kicker has missed 2 field goals already. Like I said, they weren't really close. You're on Green Bay's 28-yard line with about 2 minutes left. In this instance, are you trying to score? If Seth is the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, are you trying to score instead of lining up your rookie to kick a 35-yard field goal?
I am trying to do 2 things. I'm trying to, 1, ensure that Green Bay does not get a second of time to have the ball.
Yep.
How many times have we seen the Hail Mary against Detroit? Any number, I can't count on my fingers and toes the number of times that Green Bay has just had some fluky play at the end of the game.
The end of the fourth quarter, they lined up for a field goal with no timeouts, and they ran the ball the first time.
He marched down the field. I think they got 41 yards in the span of like 30 seconds. So you leave any time on the clock for Rodgers, and you're likely going to pay for it. A couple of years ago, Dallas did that. They had the lead with like a minute left to go, and I don't know if anybody outside of Dallas thought that Dallas was going to end up winning that game. So I'm trying to prevent him from being able to have an opportunity. You either are going to win the game or you're going to tie. And the other thing, too, is I do understand Zimmer's perspective that he's coming from of saying, look, we've got a kicker who is paid to make kicks.
Yep.
We put the ball in the middle of the field for him, and he didn't make the kick. If you are attempting to drive to the end zone and a ball gets tipped and intercepted, or if somebody fumbles the ball, or if you take a sack and all of a sudden move yourself out of field goal range, that looks 1,000 times worse than taking the percentage play and lining up for the kick while also ensuring that the Packers are going to have to settle for a loss or a tie as well. The tie is worse for Green Bay than it is for us because that is now one home game that they did not win in. And for the Vikings, I mean, let's be realistic. With the exception of a couple of those penalties, they really should never even have been in that situation. That was likely a loss anyway. So it worked out better for the Vikings, but I don't know. It's easy to criticize Mike Zimmer after the fact, but I think if they would have done something like going for the jugular and that ended up backfiring, then I think the backlash is a lot worse. It's
so funny when your kicker struggles and they're missing, 35-yard field goals, 35-yard field goals per se. I was watching some of the games, Sunday 4:00 games, and you see these kickers just easily making 50-plus yard field goals, and you just kind of put your hands on your head and say, "Wow, like really?" Carlson can't knock in a 35-yard field goal, and Janikowski's knocking them in from 55 in Chicago. So it's very troublesome. Let's move on here and let's preview the Buffalo Bills-Viking game here. 17-point favorites, Vikings. I don't remember the last